Hey everyone, Walter Crosby with Helix Sales Development, your host of Sales and Cigars. Got a fun episode today with a gentleman named Morris Sims. Morris has got a storied career in the corporate world. He's worked from being a top sales guy to being chief learning officer at a big corporation. He's got his own consultancy now where he's still helping people build out training programs. We'll talk a little college football, so get ready because he went to Auburn, and Auburn and Alabama has got a great rivalry, just like Michigan and Ohio State does. So we talk a little football. I have an affinity for Auburn, so a little fun there. And then we talk about being a good citizen, being a sales guy that's looking to help and do the things that are necessary to be successful. Morris is a great guy. He's been around the block a little bit, so go grab a cocktail, grab a cigar, strap in for another fun episode of Sales and Cigars. So Morris, thank you for taking some time out of your schedule to jump on this podcast. I really appreciate it.
Oh, Walter, thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to this.
Well, we had you invited me onto your podcast a week or two ago, and had a fun conversation. So I'm hoping that this will be another fun conversation. I'm confident. You got your Auburn golf shirt on. Go War Eagle. I think that's such a cool, Auburn, Alabama tradition, Michigan, Ohio State tradition. But we don't have a big ass bird come flying down from the top of the stadium down to the field. I remember an interview with I forget which SEC kid that was one of your opponents, and he said that terrified him. He was like shooken up for the first half of the game because he was not expecting a big eagle to come flying down onto the stadium. So,
well, what's most exciting to me or most interesting to me is the fact that those birds are large.
Yeah,
they're big birds. I mean, it's amazing just how big an eagle is, and I've seen them for many, many years, but that's been always the thing that gets me as you get up close to War Eagle, whose name actually is Tiger.
Tiger.
But
Makes sense.
You get up close to, I thought that was pretty cool. You get up close to Tiger and you realize she's a big bird. And for many years, it's been a female eagle, and the males are even larger, I understand. So in any case, it's a blast. It's one of those wonderful college traditions that you're really excited about being a part of.
To me, that's the thing about college football is the tradition. And you guys have it with multiple schools. We have it with a couple of different schools, Michigan State, Michigan, Ohio State, Michigan. We've created a little rivalry with Iowa. To me, it's part of the fun. And it's still getting commercialized, but it used to be kind of sacrosanct, right? That
Mm-hmm.
they were kids, they were playing for the joy and for the opportunity. They always got paid, right, because of the scholarships, but now they're actually getting paid. Some of them.
Yeah, that's right. Now they're actually getting paid, and it's above the table now. But
yeah, that's right. You're in the SEC. There's that rival school. They do get they do have a reputation for purchasing some players.
They do. Yeah. But I
Not
tell you what, Walter, growing up in Birmingham in the 60s and 70s, of course, Auburn was not only the little brother to Alabama, we were probably a far removed cousin, if that. And there was some, it was not pleasant a lot of times. But over the years, as I've grown older and much wiser, I've come to realize that it wouldn't be half as much fun if we didn't have each other. Wouldn't be half as much fun.
It's what makes it. I hate to lose. Absolutely hate losing, but I mean, the rivalry is there. The coaching, the coaching rivalry. I don't know it, and you can have a really crappy season and win that game, and
All bets
all
are
was
off then. Yeah,
all was well with the world. I
yeah, absolutely.
I remember I was driving home. I was listening to the game on the radio. I was coming back from Florida. We'd spent some time there, and that Michigan Ohio State game, and it was kind of a big thing. But listening to the Iron Ball was.
Mm.
I'm particularly remembering the where you guys pulled it out at the end with that with the kickoff, right? And the guy ran it back off the. It was a freak kind of a thing, but I almost ran off the road because I was so the girls were sleeping in the car, and I was yelling and all excited because I root for Auburn in those situations. Um, so that was
Yeah,
pretty.
that was a very exciting year. That was an extremely exciting year, and it still to this day will be. Hey, coach, you want 2 seconds? We'll give you 2 seconds. We got 2 seconds for you.
That's
So
funny.
it's again, it wouldn't be any fun without all of us. There's from the Alabama side, there's the Van Tiffin kick at the last second that won the game for Alabama. It goes back and forth. Back in my day, in the olden days, there was a game where we won 17-16 on 2 blocked punts.
Hmm.
So it became the punt Bama punt
Right.
game. And yeah, but that's it. That's the beauty of it all. It's the tradition. It's the relationships. It's the friendships that develop over the years. It's an amazing thing.
Yeah, it's we can segue into sales with that regard because of those. It is that competition. It is that those relationships. Like I mean, I have two really good friends that are Ohio State grads, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
the last couple of years from last year was good. The years before that kind of sucked. With them, I could hang my hat on basketball, but that's not something I was hanging my hat on. I just took the beating, right? It's like, yeah, we suck.
Yeah.
Our coach is awful. But it's part of like sales, right? You want your sales room, your sales meetings like to be loud and boisterous and be competitive. And those relationships are built over that competition. And even though you're on the same team in the sales room, you want that little fight in there. I think it makes it more fun and more interesting if you have those kind of guys.
Oh, it does. It does. It really does. Having hung my hat around a bunch of salespeople, including myself, for many, many, many years. There's that spark of competition there that gets you going, that gets you excited, and you look at those reports and how come my name's not up at the top? Well, because I didn't do as well as the other guy did. Well, and I need to do something different and make some changes. And it does kind of spark your desire to go out and do something maybe a little more, maybe a little differently, and get some better results. But at the end, you know, there was a guy that when I was selling that won the Agent of the Month trophy every month. This guy, Lee Rosen, I couldn't ever beat Lee. Come hell or high water, I wasn't going to beat Lee. I was number two,
Mm.
and number two we try harder. And it was amazing. And when Lee finally graduated out of that competition and went on to do bigger things with the company I was with there, I suddenly got to be the agent of the month. Man, that was really, really cool. And it does make a difference, man. It makes a difference. I don't care if you tell me you're not competitive or you are. Um, it's who we are as human beings, I think.
I got to agree. Like there's some psychology. If we go right down to that reptilian part of our brain, it's always about winning. It's always about getting, coming back with, the from the hunt with the
Oh, yeah.
the animal. It's about if you're a guy, it's about the girl, right? I mean, there's always that competitive nature to, and I think that drives us. And if you're in sales and you don't have that drive, I don't know, you can be successful, right? Because we look at salespeople and we divide them in how they're motivated into three categories: extrinsically motivated, which is guys
Mhm.
like you and me, with money and the wins and competition. And then sort of the millennial kind of thing, the intrinsically motivated. They want to be part of something. They want to learn. They want that bigger thing that they're part of. And the third one's altruistically motivated, where they're typically better at customer service than they are sales because they're so much more focused on taking care of somebody. But if you don't have that drive and that motivation to go out and compete, I don't know why you would be in sales. It's just like sports.
Yeah, I mean, you got to want something somewhere along the line. I was a fairly good chemical engineer for 5 years and decided I wanted to do something different. So decided to go into sales and start selling life insurance. Well, why in the world would you do that, Morris? Well, I wanted to do something fun, and that looked like it would be fun, and it was for the next 32 years. I was with the New York Life Insurance Company, and it was a blast. But the point was, I wanted more. I
Yeah.
wanted something more, and I wanted something that I could have some control over. It wasn't whether or not somebody else decided to promote me as to whether or not I got more money. It was whether or not I went out and did what I was supposed to do. So that control piece was exciting for me, and the idea to win and earn more, because is money the root of all evil? I don't know. The love of it certainly could be, but
Sure.
it's the way we measure things, no matter what. I don't care what you think about money. The fact is, it's how we measure things. And I wanted to be measured in a positive fashion.
Well, it allows you to do more your family and friends. It allows
Hmm.
you um, to be more philanthropic and to be more, um, all the things that you want to do. It gives you that opportunity typically. And sales is such a simple. The measurement is like you're either on the top of the list or you're not. You're someplace on that that list, and now you have motivation to get better or not, right? And it's clear you need to do certain things to get to where you want to go. Um, it has a low bar to entry. That's probably why we have so many people that aren't very good at it. Um, so maybe that's another segue point because you excelled. You were a good agent. You're a good salesperson because you listened, because you engaged with somebody. You really tried to understand what their concerns were, and then you moved into a learning. I mean, how was that phrased? Because you're really training people to be better salespeople and better agents for the company as you grew. Can you kind of describe that journey, how you made that transition?
Sure. It was interesting. I happen to have an office right next to the training manager in our office in New Orleans, and I enjoyed working with this gentleman, Art Sagers. He was a blast, and I enjoyed having him next door. But there was always a line of people at Art's door waiting to go in and ask him questions and learn more and to get help on whatever case they were working on. Well, when the line got too long and people didn't want to wait anymore, they would come trucking into my office and start asking me questions. And I was just a young kid, young salesperson, and I was dumb enough to say, "Fine, come on in." And then I'd use my time to help them, and realize at the end of the day, dummy, you didn't get any of your work done.
You didn't make those calls. You didn't write that order. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was fun. It was a blast. And one day they came along and said, "Hey, you do this pretty well. Why don't you come over here and train other people to do what you do?" And after some long discussions and you know how those discussions go around the house, around the kitchen table about whether or not we're going to make a decision like that. We chose to give it a try and moved from New Orleans to Monroe, Louisiana, where we spent a couple of years there. And then they said, "Well, you're doing pretty good. Why don't you come up here and teach the folks up in Little Rock?" So I went up to Little Rock, Arkansas, and we lived there for 5 years. And they said, "Hey, we like what you're doing. Why don't you come over here to Dallas and you can supervise the Southwestern zone and the 30 or 40 training people in that area," which I did and enjoyed that move tremendously. And then one day they said, "Why don't you come to New York? And because we'd like for you to run the management training, the leadership training side of the house." Did that. And it just progressed on. Walter, we were in New York for 20 years and I retired as the vice president in charge of training for the agency department and the chief learning officer for agency. And it was a blast doing it because I got to not only, well, let me put it this way. A lot of times the analogy is used, and I think it's probably a pretty good one. Would you rather be out there on the field with the uniform on and the helmet on and the cleats and be running and catching the ball and doing all those kind of things? Don't you hate sports analogies? I'm going to use this one. Would you want to go do that, or do you want to be the coach on the sidelines, helping them to learn how to do it better, helping them to make good decisions in the case and to go out and do the thing and win the game? There's still that whole idea of winning the game. There's still that whole idea of success from, in this case, somebody else being able to do it. You know, you had a hand in it.
Mm-hmm.
And somewhere along the line, somebody's going to call you. And in my case, I was tremendously honored when a lady from Little Rock called me and said, "Would you come down here? I'm the top agent in the office for the year, and they've told me I could invite anybody down here that had an impact on my career, and I want you to come."
Wow.
That was probably one of the highlights of my career, was when I was recognized by the person I had trained when she was a brand new agent. And that still to this day, it kind of twists my heart a little bit, I guess you could say.
No, that is a real testimonial, and to both of you actually, right? Because she's compassionate enough, empathetic enough to recognize that she didn't get there on her own, right? She had help, like we all do.
Yep.
And I think like I didn't have the corporate journey that you have, but the idea of helping somebody and coaching them and watching somebody get better, get over it, right? To make the next step and pointing it out to them, like, do you realize where you were and how far you've come, and you see these milestones that you've done? And what's amazing is that sometimes they don't see it, right? And once you point it out to them, you watch that little their body language and their expressions, like, and they get so excited, like, "I did that," and I'm like, "You did? Well, you helped me." I did, but you did it. You're the one responsible.
You had to go do it. Yeah.
You execute it, and it wasn't a straight line, right? It's always a little ziggy zaggy, but to me, that's, yes, we all want to get paid, but that is a huge reward when somebody says, acknowledge that, and having you come down to, be part of her recognition is a huge deal. I remember I was on a call. I was calling on schools, and I was sitting in a principal office in a not so great school district, and he got a call on his radio. He said, "Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back." And he raced out of his office into the corridor. And I sit there for a couple of minutes, and I can hear things going on. I poke my head out the door, and he's tackled this guy in the hallway, and the security guys are coming. And the security guys get the guy, and he gets up, and he's wearing a 3-piece suit, and he comes back to the office, and he goes, "All right, so where were we?" And I'm like, "What?" "You're going to have to explain." So he's explaining to me what happened, and I'm like, "Why? You've been doing," he told me he'd been doing this for 40 years. I'm like, "Why?" He goes, every year, there's one kid that comes up to me after the graduation ceremony and shows me his diploma and says, "The only reason I got this is because of you."
Mm-hmm.
He said, "I only need one of those, and I'm back." So that to me, when you said that story, that's kind of what I was thinking, that
Sure.
That's still competition. That's still drive. You're still trying to help people. And I think it's it just, I don't know, it just feels almost as good, if not the same, as cashing a big commission check.
Yeah, it really does. Yeah. In part of the workshops that I do, I talk about the clarity principle. And basically what it says is you got to be really clear about what you want. Because if you're not ever going to get it. But you need to be clear about what you want and why you want it. And all of us have a different why. All of us have a different why that's going to cause us to get up in the morning and jump over the hurdles and and go do all the things and put up with the people that you really don't want to put up with, and
Uh-huh.
do all the stuff that you have to do to be successful in whatever area you're going to do it. But if you don't know what that why is, if you're not really clear about your why, then you don't have that drive and that motivation to do it. For some of us, that why is the paycheck. It's the dollar bills. It's the money in the account. For other folks, it's a whole different why. And I can tell you what, my wife taught elementary school for 30 years. Her why didn't have anything to do with the paycheck she brought home, but it had to do with those fourth graders
Hmm.
that she was teaching and those smiles that she would see every day. And it was an amazing thing to watch her do her work while I'm over here trying to teach a bunch of adults how to be great salespeople and business people. I walked into her classroom one day, and it was amazing. She had this little group of kids over here doing one thing, and this little group of kids over here doing another thing, and this little group of kids over here were playing pickup sticks because they'd gotten all their work done. And she was tutoring 3 kids up at the almost said chalkboard, at the whiteboard, doing their thing. And I was just amazed. I said, "Honey, how do you do that?" And she said, "Well, just do it."
Just
I
do
said,
it.
"But I have a class of 30 adults, and I can't get them all to do the same thing at the same damn time, much less do 6 different things all at once."
Yeah.
And it's amazing what folks do and why they do it. And we all have our own why.
A clarity principle is if you don't connect the dots for them, because we do a workshop, and
Mm-hmm.
it's about, if you don't have those personal goals and you don't create the alignment between that and what they need to do in their role to get the dollars to do the things that they want to do, it's hard to remind somebody. It doesn't matter if it's sales or you're trying to lose weight or whatever. It's
Right.
if you don't know why it's important, you're going to struggle, and that's what drives me, the discipline. To get up at 5:30 in the morning to go do what I do at 5:30 in the morning. It's not even a thought anymore. It's just like there's no question. You just get up and do it. And having that, you call it clarity, which is a great way of looking at it, is critical. So you went. I had 2 questions I want to come back to. You went from the South, and you have a little bit of an accent, and you went to New York. You were in the city, right? You
I
didn't live
worked
in
in
the
the
city.
city. Yes, we lived in kind of central Jersey, where 287 or 278, 278, 2 big interstates cross each other at Bridgewater, New Jersey, and that's where we lived. It was a 2 hour commute in and 2 hours home every day on trains,
Right.
2 different trains to get there, and about a mile walk once I hit Manhattan. But I did that because I told my wife when we moved up there, I said, "Honey, you find the school system you think is right for the kids, and I'll deal with whatever the commute is." That was a bad decision on my part. That's what that was. But
But you did it for the right reason.
yeah, it worked out. It worked out pretty well. But yeah, so we were in Jersey, but I had to go into the city every day, and we worked at 51 Madison Avenue.
51 Madison Avenue. I know the building. I was in commercial real estate when I lived in New York, and that has a unique look and your name on the building. It's a cool little spot. But commuting on a train gives you a chance to do a little bit of work.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
Probably cell phones were a little expensive at that point, but you could still write out, work on your paperwork and that kind of thing, right? Read.
Well, it was amazing. By the time I got to New York, it was 94, 92, 94, something like that. Anyway, we had laptop computers by then. They were a lot larger than they are today, but we still had them. And boy, I'd get on the train. By the time I got on the second train in Newark, the laptop turned on, the screen came up, and I went to work. And there was not just one time that I missed my stop on the way home and wound up 5 or 10 miles past my house, and Carla had to come get me. Um, because I was just working right along, and I never heard the guy say, Raritan. And sure enough, I'm over in White House before I realize,
Hmm.
hey, Turkey, your car is back over here.
Yeah. So you need a ride before Ubers. Um,
Exactly.
that's funny. So and you've transitioned your business to you're doing the same thing, right? You're really helping people, train them, coach them, right? So who's your ideal? Like if somebody's listening and they like what you're saying, they like your vibe. Like who's your ideal person, the kind of company individual? What's a good fit for Morris?
Usually it's folks that are running their own business, entrepreneurial type folks, and there are many of us out there today who are in sales. I've seen, and we're all in sales, aren't we?
We all are.
Um, no doubt about that. But especially if you're a one man show or a one woman show, and you're maybe one or two or three people in your business, and you're trying to run the business and be a great salesperson all at the same time, that's kind of hard to do sometimes. And I've seen it take some folks down when they try to do those two things together. So my podcast is titled The Business of Sales because so many great salespeople need some help with the business side. So I try and help them with that part. I also work with people who are younger in the business of sales, younger sales professionals as far as their time in the business of sales. And we coach those folks and consult with them. I like to think of it as consulting with them more than coaching them because, we all know what we're supposed to do, and you don't need anybody to beat you up if you don't do it. But you do need somebody to ask you the right questions. And that's what I try and do. And the other piece of our work, Walter, has been building training programs. I'm in the middle of building a training program right now for a group of travel advisors, and that's been a lot of fun working with folks who are in sales, but they don't call it sales necessarily. They don't necessarily think of it that way in their own mind, and rightly so. It's a different kind of a look at sales, and help them understand some of the basic principles of how you go about doing it and how you go about being successful at it and being extremely professional at it.
Hmm.
So that's kind of where my world is right now. And I got to tell you, I'm having more fun than I've ever had since I left Auburn.
Hmm.
It's been amazing. I'm having a blast.
I mean, one of the great quotes from David Sandler was is if you're in sales and you're not having a good time, then you're doing it wrong because
True.
it should be fun. Yeah, it's there's some things that can be a problem and nobody likes to lose, but for the most part, it's fun. And you've talked about different roles that you've had in your career, and you talked about having a blast, you're talking about having a great time, and that's not just about getting paid. It was about impact, right? It was about engaging with individuals and companies, to help them in different capacities. So to me, that's what sales is really about, is helping people.
Oh, it is. Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
should be able to create wins, wins for you, wins for them, and wins for the company. It's it's that's the driver, I think, is having a good
Yeah.
time. That's why I started this consultancy of mine, was and this podcast, frankly, was to have fun. Um, you know, I had a really good. My wife tells the story. I had a really good job. I hated, but I had a really good job that I left to go do a startup, and that startup never started. So I was back, like, now what am I going to do? And I realized that I was going to have to go work for an asshole, and I didn't want to do that. So if I was going to have to, might as well be me. Um, I'll be the asshole that I work for, and it just it's a grind sometimes, but it
Yeah.
to me it's just a blast, as you would say, to have some impact here and there, and have some fun. To me, that's what it's about, having fun.
Yeah. No, it really is. And it's interesting in this world of sales that we're in. You can do it from so many different vantage points in so many different ways, so many different roles, if you will.
Hmm.
Somebody introduced me one time, went down the whole list of things I had been involved in at the company, and said, this poor guy just can't keep a job. And I explained to him, I said, well, you're absolutely right. I can't. I
That's
can't
funny.
because I love things new. I love new challenges. And when they come along and say, hey, why don't you come over here and run this part of the company, or come over here and train this group of people or whatever, I would jump on it because it was a new challenge. It was something I wanted to do. And getting to New York, I wound up having the opportunity to be involved in training for some of the executives in the company, some of the young executives in the company who were up and coming, and creating some leadership training and doing those kind of things, which were a blast. I enjoyed it tremendously and learned quite a bit personally from doing it. Walter, you learn more training somebody else how to do something than you ever do when you're trying to learn it all by yourself.
Exactly. To me, I learn stuff from the people I work, the salespeople I work with, the sales managers I work with. It's a two-way street. It's Park Avenue. You're right. You're going both directions, and that's what makes it interesting. I'm reading a book right now called The $1 Trillion Coach about Bill Campbell's life. He was he had some small clients like Steve Jobs and the guys at Google. And I mean the guys at Google. I mean, the top three or four guys. And
Yeah,
he
those
just
two guys that started that thing. Yeah.
and then Eric, this is the CEO. I mean, he just if you go through the who's who of everybody in Silicon Valley, he had a hand in their success. That's why the book is called $1 Trillion Success. Just with the
Wow.
Google guys and Steve Jobs, it was over $1 trillion in value that was created. And we might be using Bing and Edge if it wasn't for his work that he did with the guys at Google, right? Because they might not have become what they become. So I think you can have impact in ways that you never really understand until later on, and somebody calls you up and says, "Hey, can you show up at my this award ceremony because you had an impact on me?" So that's a great. So I I think where I'd like to go here is like I always ask this question towards the end about a relationship that you might have with cigars or a cool story that you might have. Is there anything there that we can talk about?
Well, I'm of the generation, I guess, that I started sneaking cigarettes out of my mother's cigarette package when I was still in elementary school, and uh, I guess I was in
Morris.
high school when I finally lit up a cigarette in front of her, and she said, "Well, you have a beer with me, you might as well smoke with me," and I did. I got into pipes at one point in time, which
Pipes.
similar to cigars,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
guess. It was a big humidor, and I tried that for a while, and then the young lady that I was dating, who has eventually become my soulmate partner and lovely bride and wife now for 44 years.
Wow.
Um, she
Congratulations.
said, because she at the time she smoked as well, and she said, I can deal with cigarettes, but you're going to have to get rid of that damn pipe. So I did, because she meant more to me than the pipe did. But I tried cigars for a while. I
Yeah.
did, and I really I enjoyed them, but she didn't like cigars either, Walter.
Hmm.
So with that in mind, I had to push that one aside, and eventually down the road, as many of us have in today's world, uh, you don't have I did originally. I had a big old ashtray on my desk, but not in today's corporate world. You don't do that. So we wound up having to give it up, and we're healthier, I think, because of it. As we got rid of the cigarette part of the thing,
Yeah.
and that sort of helped. But I tell you what, I would had a seventh grade teacher who said, if they push the button and they send the nuclear bombs, I'm not going to go run and hide. I'm going to get a lawn chair. I'm going to go out in my front yard, put on a pair of sunglasses, and watch it. And I've always said, I think that's probably a good idea. I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm also going to go get a bottle of scotch
Hmm.
and a carton of cigarettes, and I'm going to go out there and I'm going to smoke myself silly and have a drink or two and watch whatever happens
Watch the
happen.
world come to an end.
So
Yeah.
I could pick one up today. I could have a cigar with you in a heartbeat, but I might not be allowed back in the house for a couple
You'd
days.
have to take a shower before you went to see your wife. Yeah, there was a time when I belonged to a very large Kiwanis club in the town that I lived in, and we'd have our meeting, deal with give away the money, and it was all very serious. And then afterwards, we were very serious about what we called Little League. So one night out of every year, one of the members picked up the bar bill for everybody else. So imagine sitting in an Elks Club with a big bar. There was a table of guys playing bridge. There was a table of people playing poker. There was a table of people playing some other card game that I don't remember what it was. And then there's a table of guys that are just sitting there smoking cigars. Place was all like smoky like they used to be. We were getting, bottles or glasses of Jack Daniels for $1.25. And it was awesome, right? And you'd come stumbling home, and my wife was like, before you get into bed, just leave the clothes over there, take a shower before you come to bed, because it was and she's right. You're stinky. It's not.
Yeah,
I'm not hiding that. It's true, but it's not exactly healthy. But I'll tell you this: I have never, ever had a puff of a cigarette in my life.
really.
Yeah, I mean, I'll have 2 or 3 cigars a day.
Yeah.
But I've never had a cigarette, and not to say that that's good or bad. It's just people find that weird that I've never even tried one. Never had the desire.
I don't either. I don't think it's strange at all, because it's two completely different things. I know that when I was smoking cigars for that period of time, or my pipe even, I didn't give up cigarettes. It was still an addiction to those things like you wouldn't believe. So in any case,
Yeah.
but there's nothing like there was. I guess there still is nothing like a good cigarette and a nice hot cup of coffee in the morning.
That's funny. I mean, I know people that still do that, and that's how they kickstart their day. So, all right, I appreciate the time again. A great conversation. We're going to have some of the ways to reach out to you. If somebody listens to this and they want to talk Auburn football, or they want to talk about sales, what's the best way to reach you? The email, LinkedIn, website? What's your preference?
All of the above. The email is one that I'm on all the time, and that's Morris, MORRIS, at morrissims.com, and that's a lot of S's, but it's MORRISSIMS.com, and that's the website, and you can go there and find stuff from me and our podcast there, and LinkedIn for sure. So any of those avenues will work just great, man.
Appreciate it. So we'll connect again. We're connected on LinkedIn, and we'll definitely talk during college football. So I appreciate
Absolutely.
it. Thank you.
Absolutely.
To get your copy of Walter Crosbys' new book, The 7 Critical Mistakes CEOs Make with Their Sales Organization That Stop the Company from Scaling, follow the link in the show notes or go to Amazon.com. Thank you for listening to Sales and Cigars with Walter Crosby of Helix Sales Development. For more on Sales and Cigars, remember to like, share, and subscribe. Sales and Cigars, produced by thepodcastproshop.com.